Good morning. Um, I was awake and I had this thought that was I was thinking about. Um, it's about Kundalini awakening, or I guess that's what it was. I guess because I want to explain it in case nobody knows what it feels like or what your body does when it happens. Well, I want to explain the originality of it. See, back I had mentioned before, back in September of 2018, um, I guess it's Kundalini awakening. A sexual experience that was going on between Joe and I. Well, what come to mind? I keep picturing it in my head. I was in the UK for like 14 years, and I knew about this relationship, the spiritual relationship going on with Joe and I the whole entire time since it began. Since the first day it began, I was aware of it. And that was back in March of 2001. But anyways, back in September of 2018, I'm with this man named Humphrey. He's a gentleman, an older gentleman, that took me in. And right before I moved back to the U.S. Now, in London, I was in Wootton Under Edge, and I had to, no, I was in Gloucester, and I had to make my way to London, to the American Embassy. And now, I had already had a spiritual sexual interaction, you know, and and you feel it, or I felt, this is where I felt, it was in my, like, I guess what they call the G spot, or, I can feel it. It's a certain point right below, right, right below my belly button, right above my pelvic area and below my belly button. So it's centered right there. I can feel it now. But it's not it reacts differently. There's different sensations that can happen. But what I want to explain was in October, after leaving Humphrey and being homeless on the streets in the UK, I had to leave Humphrey as a story. But at any rate, I was in London. I finally made it to London, and I was near the American Embassy, and they had this grocery store, right? And I was there. I made it there on a Saturday, I believe. Saturday. I had to be there for Monday morning at the American Embassy, and I was there over the weekend. I had to spend on the streets there before it opened. So I was there early I was there early. I was there on Saturday. So I'm sitting on the sidewalk of this grocery store down the street from the embassy. And I'm looking across the street. And I see this like little park area, a walking area in a park that had a covered shelter, and you could sit. And so I ended up walking over there and sitting. When all of a sudden, without thought, without recognition of any control or even knowing it was going to happen, my body started going like this. It just started doing like jerking my hips. I couldn't control it. It didn't hurt. It was sexual and like a tingly, not completely sexual. It was just a sexual energy, like that made me. My hips were moving automatically. I couldn't stop it. I was just having a reaction. And besides the sexual interactions that took place at Humphreys, where it first began, my body never reacted the way it did at this point. It was coming from the same space, the same spot. It was coming from the same spot inside my body. But it was nothing that I was controlling with thought or with emotion. It was just automatic. it was like an excitement of some sort that this is happening. This is happening. And my body, my hips were moving because of inside my body was pulsating. Really, I mean, pulsating. And it was automatic. I couldn't stop it. It was just, I mean, it didn't look freaky or nothing. It was just, I was there alone. Nobody was walking around. It was early morning. And I was sitting there and I couldn't control it. So I'm trying to look normal while my body, my hips are kind of moving, you know. Like I said, I was all alone out there. I was wanting a cigarette, hoping somebody would walk by with a cigarette, you know. And there was no thought process going with it except for the fact that this is familiar. It's familiar, but it's different. So, yeah. I've never heard anybody explain what it feels like or the sensation of it happening and what I thought it was going on. And thinking about it, when it was happening, I was thinking there was an excitement. And thank God, I know it was terrible when it was happening, but it was a blessing, that my ex actually left me, because I would have never left. I thought about it, and I didn't know the American Embassy could help you. And I don't know. I wasn't always, thinking straight because of what happened and then other things that were going on. So it was devastating, even though it was love, but it was a bad relationship that I couldn't get away from. It took 14 years. Like I said, if my ex never walked out and left without announcing that he was leaving, he just, he said he was going to sell some guitars and go busking, and he never came back. And that's, but anyways, during this time, a lot of things were going on, but it wasn't until he left and I got to Humphreys that the sexual stuff started. I never experienced it. I knew the relationship with Joe and I was going on. I knew about that, but the sexual energy never happened till after Greg left. And that's my ex. After he left and walked out, and I got to Humphreys, he left in June of 2018. I didn't get to Humphreys until August of 2018. But during those few months, a lot of shit happened. But I was aware of Joe, and finding out he had kids, and I knew he had a son, but I didn't know he had a daughter. But I remember turning on my YouTube after, Greg left. The first thing I did when he left was turn the TV on and seeing Def Leppard on YouTube. And I can't remember. I found out he had a daughter. And anyway, so I was from June to August of 2018 by myself. And then I went to Humphreys in the end of August of 2018. And then in September, that's when the automatic sexual energy and thought, I guess it's telepathic when I say thought, because it is a connection. It's a connection between us both. And, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but my body reacted. So if it ever happens to anybody, you can't control it. What was going on with me, it was nothing I could control, but it was jerking my hips automatically. And that's what I was assuming is similar. It was sexual, and it felt sexual because of where it was coming from, but it was like an excitement. It's happening. Things are moving now, and it just felt really strange. I don't know. I've never heard of anybody else's experience. I could talk all about it, how it happened to me. And I do. I try, it's just awkward. Like last night, this is probably why I started thinking about it. I felt this warm sensation. It wasn't pulsating. It was just a warm love, like a warm little hug, like a little warm, like a warmness. and it felt like a hug, but it comes from there. And it's weird because you get the sensation and it connects to your heart and mind, and you interpret that connection with the message that's being sent to you. Like you feel the message in your below your belly, like I said, right above my pelvic, below my belly button, right there in that center spot is like another it's like another telepathic connection, you receive messages that way. It's weird, but it was, if you pay attention, even sometimes you're just sitting there doing whatever, it just felt warm, like a warm hug, like a hug. And so if it ever happens to anybody, maybe what it is, because I didn't know. I had no idea anything about anything. I knew we had a spiritual connection, but I didn't know these things could take place. And sometimes people think, you might not know. I know my family doesn't know because of all the difficulty I've had, or anybody else for that matter, because I've never heard anybody talk about it before. But it's just a tingly, tickly, pulsating sensation, and it's nothing that I controlled. I can't control that. Now, on the other side of that, with the thought and telepathic connection, I guess the way it has happened was, I lay down, and Joe's always on my thoughts and in my mind, and I would just I guess I would, like my pillow would be Joe in my thought. I know it's not, and I know it's not. It's energy that I'm forming in my mind with Tim and the sensations of each other. And it happens with thought, heart, your emotions, your feelings, your soul, and that spot there. It's weird. It's like I got my mind that tells me things. I've got my heart and my soul that tell me things. And I've got this spot below my belly button, above my pelvic, that's a sexual energy spot that has a mind of its own too. They all think the same, but they're each individual thinking spots, I guess. They all three interpret the same information the same way, the same thing. See, the only thing Joe and I are not, because we're everything else, and I know that for a fact, Joe and I have not been physical. We've never physically been together, and we've never actually even physically said anything, to be honest. I can't even remember. The only thing I remember asking Joe the last time I saw him was, can I put my hand there? And I meant over, over his heart, and take a picture with him after the rodeo at the hotel. And I can't even remember what I said. I can't remember 2 words I said to him, except for that. But after that, that's when the heart swirl, happened later on. But that is what has caused this connection with our heart and soul and our mind. And that spot right there, it talks to me. It's not coming from my mind, like telepathically, until I think, what is that spot telling me? What does it make me feel like? What is it saying to me? And I just get all my information that way, from my mind, my heart, and that spot. So it was kind of weird, having my hips jerk like that and automatically tingling. It was like, if females know when they get pregnant, when the baby first moves, it feels like a little butterfly, little flutter. This is a lot stronger than that, but it's similar in nature. And you couldn't control it. There was nothing you could do. You didn't make it happen. Your body was reacting to an interaction that I was unfamiliar with at the time, but I'm a lot more familiar with it now. So, anyways,